The stars had always called to humanity. For thousands of years, people had looked up at the night sky and dreamed of what lay beyond. They had built rockets and space stations. They had walked on the moon and planted flags on Mars. They had spread across their own solar system like seeds carried by the wind. But they had never been allowed to go further. The Dominion had made sure of that. The Dominion was a coalition of 12 alien species. They had ruled the galaxy for 10,000 years. They had conquered countless worlds and destroyed any species that dared to challenge them. When they discovered humanity 200 years ago, they saw nothing special. Just another primitive species. Just another problem to control. They created the Containment Accord. This was a treaty that trapped humanity inside their own solar system. Humans could not travel beyond the heliopause, the invisible boundary where the sun's influence ended. Any human ship that crossed that line would be destroyed. Any human colony beyond that line would be burned. For 200 years, humanity had obeyed. They had swallowed their pride and followed the rules. They had watched as alien ships passed through their system without permission. They had endured insults and threats. They had stayed quiet and small, just as the Dominion wanted. But something was changing. Admiral Helena Vance stood at the window of Geneva Station, Earth's largest orbital platform. She was a tall woman with gray hair and cold blue eyes. She had served in the fleet for 40 years. She had seen things that would break most people, but nothing had prepared her for what she was watching now. On the screen before her, Ambassador Os of the was speaking. He was a tall creature with pale blue skin and 4 eyes that never blinked. His voice was smooth like oil, but his words were poison. Humanity has been developing forbidden technology, Os said. His 4 eyes stared into the camera without emotion. Our sensors have detected experimental drives capable of faster-than-light travel. This is a direct violation of the Containment Accord. Vance felt her hands tighten into fists. You have 60 standard days to dismantle these drives, Os continued. You will allow Dominion inspectors full access to all your facilities. You will surrender any scientists involved in this illegal research. If you refuse, the Dominion will be forced to take corrective measures. The transmission ended. The screen went dark. Vance stood in silence for a long moment. Behind her, she could hear the worried voices of her officers. They were afraid. They had every right to be. The Dominion had destroyed entire civilizations for smaller crimes than this. But Vance was not afraid. She was angry. She turned to face her officers. Call an emergency session of the United Earth Council, she said. Every member, every colony, every station. This decision belongs to all of us. The council met 3 days later. Representatives from Earth, Mars, the Moon, and every human settlement in the solar system gathered in a virtual chamber. Billions of people watched the broadcast. This was the most important moment in human history, and everyone knew it. The debate lasted for hours. Some argued for surrender. They said humanity could not win against the Dominion. They said compliance was the only way to survive. They spoke of the millions who would die in a war they could not win. Others disagreed. They spoke of dignity and freedom. They spoke of 200 years of humiliation. They spoke of children who would grow up in cages, never knowing what it meant to be free. Admiral Vance was the last to speak. She stood before the council with her hands clasped behind her back. Her voice was calm but firm. For 200 years we have done everything they asked. We have bowed, we have scraped, we have made ourselves small, and what has it gotten us? More demands, more insults, more chains. She paused and looked around the chamber. They do not see us as equals. They see us as animals to be controlled. And animals we will remain as long as we keep acting like them. She took a deep breath. I say no more. I say we draw a line, not because we want war, but because some things are worth fighting for. Our children deserve to see the stars. are deserved to walk on worlds we cannot imagine, and we deserve to stand tall just once and say enough. The vote was held. It was not unanimous, but it was clear. Humanity had made its choice. The message was broadcast across every frequency, in every language, to every corner of the galaxy. Admiral Vance read it herself, standing straight and proud before the cameras. To the dominion of and all who serve it. For 200 years humanity has lived under your shadow. We have followed your rules. We have accepted your limits. We have endured your contempt. No more. Her eyes were like steel. Earth has drawn its final line. The boundary of our system is now the boundary of your authority. Any ship that crosses it without permission will be considered hostile. Any act of aggression will be met with force. She leaned forward slightly. This is not a negotiation. This is not a request. This is a warning, the only warning you will receive. Step beyond our line and you will face complete destruction. The transmission ended. In the halls of the Dominion, the 12 species watched the message with amusement. Ambassador Os laughed, a cold and clicking sound. Around him, the other representatives joined in. Complete destruction, one of them repeated, from a species that cannot even leave its own system. They are children playing with fire, another said. They will learn. Let them have their moment of pride, Os said. He waved one of his long hands dismissively. In 60 days we will remind them of their place. We have conquered 1,000 worlds. We have broken 1,000 species. These humans are nothing special. But far away on Geneva Station, Admiral Vance stood at her window and looked out at the stars. She knew what was coming. She knew the cost that would be paid, but she also knew something the Dominion did not. Humanity had been preparing for this moment for a very long time. In the darkness between planets, hidden among asteroids and buried beneath moons, something was waiting, something the Dominion had never imagined, something that would change everything. The final warning had been delivered. Now all that remained was to see if the Dominion would be foolish enough to ignore it. The Dominion did not wait 60 days. They waited 3 months. Grand Marshal wanted to make a point. He wanted humanity to live in fear. He wanted them to watch their calendars and count the hours. He wanted their hope to die slowly, like a candle running out of wax. Was a veteran of 100 wars. He had crushed rebellions on dozens of worlds. He had watched species beg for mercy and then ordered their extinction anyway. To him, humanity was just another problem to solve, a small problem, a boring problem. He assembled a peacekeeping fleet of 200 warships. It was not the largest force the Dominion had ever sent, but it was more than enough. Each ship was the size of a small city. Each one carried enough firepower to turn a planet into ash. Against the primitive humans, it was like sending a giant to crush an ant. "This will be quick," told his officers as the fleet prepared to depart. "We will enter their system, destroy their pathetic defenses, and force them to watch as we execute their leaders. Then they will understand their place." His officers nodded and laughed. This was not a war. This was a punishment. The fleet crossed the heliopause on a cold Tuesday morning Earth time. 200 ships moved through the darkness like metal sharks smelling blood. Their sensors swept the empty space ahead. They found nothing. No human ships, no defense platforms, nothing but rocks and ice. "They are hiding," one of his officers said. "Cowards." "Let them hide," replied. He leaned back in his command chair and smiled. "It will not save them." The fleet moved deeper into the system. They passed the outer planets without resistance. Jupiter hung in the void like a sleeping giant, and still nothing happened. Saturn's rings glittered with ice, and still nothing happened. Began to feel bored. He had expected at least some resistance, some show of defiance, but the humans were silent. Perhaps they had already surrendered. Perhaps they were on their knees, waiting to beg for forgiveness. Then the lights went out. Every sensor on every ship went dark at the same moment. Screens filled with static. Alarms screamed and then went silent. For 3 terrible seconds, the Dominion fleet was blind. When the sensors came back online, the stars had changed. Stared at his screen with all 4 of his eyes. Where there had been empty space, there were now thousands of objects. They had appeared from nowhere. They had been hiding inside asteroids, buried beneath moons, drifting in the darkness like sleeping dragons. The Prometheus Array. Humanity had spent 200 years building it in secret. Thousands of weapons platforms, each one armed with technology the Dominion had never seen. They had been waiting, silent and patient, for this exact moment. "What is this?" whispered. The answer came in fire. The first wave of missiles struck before anyone could react. They moved faster than anything the Dominion had ever tracked. They slipped through shields like they were not there. They hit their targets with perfect accuracy. Ships began to die. Watched in horror as the vessels around him exploded one by one. The pride of a flagship that had served for 500 years, was torn apart in seconds. The Void Hammer, which had conquered 17 worlds, became a cloud of burning metal. Ships that had seemed invincible were dying like insects in a flame. "Return fire," screamed. All ships returned fire. But there was nothing to fire at. The weapons platforms were too small, too fast, too many. The Dominion weapons were designed to fight other fleets, other warships. They were not designed for this. This was not a battle. This was an execution. The killing lasted 7 minutes. When it was over, 200 Dominion warships had become 200 fields of debris. Millions of tons of metal drifted through space, cooling in the void. Bodies floated among the wreckage, frozen and broken. Not a single ship survived. Not a single crew member escaped. And not a single human vessel had fired. It was entirely automated. On Geneva Station, Admiral Vance watched the battle through long-range sensors. She felt no joy. She felt no triumph. She only felt tired. She knew this was just the beginning. "Open a channel to the Dominion," she said quietly. "All frequencies." The transmission went out across the galaxy. Vance's face appeared on screens in every Dominion Council chamber, every military headquarters, every ship and station and colony. She looked calm. She looked sad, but her voice was iron. "This is Admiral Helena Vance of the United Earth Defense Fleet. Your peacekeeping armada has been destroyed. All 200 ships, all hands lost." She paused to let the words sink in. "We gave you a warning. We told you not to cross our line. You chose not to listen. That was your first mistake." Her eyes seemed to look through the screen, directly into the souls of everyone watching. "Do not make a second." The transmission ended. In the Grand Council chamber of a prime, there was only silence. The 12 species of the Dominion stared at blank screens. They could not believe what they had just witnessed. They could not process it. In 10,000 years, they had never lost a fleet. In 10,000 years, no species had ever fought back like this. Ambassador Oz stood slowly. His face had turned pale. His 4 eyes were wide with something he had not felt in centuries: fear. "This cannot stand," he said. His voice was shaking. "This is an insult to everything we are. These humans must be destroyed, completely, utterly, every last one of them." The other ambassadors nodded. Their fear was becoming anger. Their shock was becoming rage. "Mobilize everything," one of them said. "Every ship, every weapon, every soldier. We will show them what happens to species that defy the Dominion." The orders went out. Across the galaxy, 30,000 warships began to move. It was the largest military force ever assembled. It would take months to reach Sol, but when it arrived, there would be no mercy. The Dominion wanted blood. They wanted extinction. They wanted to erase humanity from the universe and make sure no one ever them again. But far away, on a small blue planet called Earth, Admiral Vance looked up at the stars and smiled. "Come then," she whispered to the darkness. "Come and see what we have been building. Come and learn why you should have left us alone." The first battle was over. The real war was about to begin. The Dominion Armada arrived like a storm made of metal and fire. 30,000 warships emerged from faster-than-light travel at the edge of the solar system. They spread across the darkness like a wall of death. When they moved, they blocked out the stars. When they spoke, their voices echoed across every frequency. "People of Earth," the broadcast said, "you have committed crimes against the Dominion. You have destroyed our ships. You have murdered our people. For this there can be no forgiveness, only justice." The new Grand Marshal was named then. He was older than and far more patient. He had studied the first battle carefully. He had learned from his predecessors' mistakes. He would not rush into the same trap. "We will not attack their defenses," and told his officers. "We will starve them instead. Nothing goes in, nothing comes out. We will wait until they are weak, and then we will crush them." The siege began. Dominion ships formed a perfect sphere around the entire solar system. Every angle was covered. Every escape route was blocked. The humans were trapped like animals in a cage, and all they could do was wait to die. Or so the Dominion believed. Weeks passed, then months, and waited for signs of collapse. He expected riots and starvation. He expected desperate messages begging for food and medicine. He expected humanity to break. Instead, he received reports that made no sense. "Their population centers are stable," his intelligence officers reported. "Food production is actually increasing. Industrial output is higher than before the siege." Anne's 4 eyes narrowed. "That is impossible. They are cut off from everything. They should be dying." "We do not understand it either, Grand Marshal." But Admiral Vance understood it perfectly. She stood in the command center beneath Geneva Station and watched the reports with quiet satisfaction. The Dominion had no idea what humanity had built during 200 years of captivity. Underground farms stretched beneath every continent on Earth. They grew food using artificial light and recycled water. They could feed billions forever without ever seeing the sun. Fusion reactors provided unlimited clean energy. Closed-loop recycling systems turned waste into resources. Every asteroid in the belt had been hollowed out and converted into a hidden fortress. Humanity had prepared for this siege since the day the Containment Accord was signed. They had known this moment would come eventually, and they had made sure they would be ready. "Let them wait," Vance told her officers. "Time is on our side, not theirs." But Anne was not a patient fool. After 6 months, he decided to test human defenses directly. He chose Mars as his target. It was the second largest human colony, home to 300 million people. More importantly, it was far from Earth. If it fell, human morale would shatter. "We attack at dawn," Anne ordered. 5,000 ships, overwhelming force. I want that planet burned to glass. The Battle of Olympus Mons began on a cold morning in March. 5,000 Dominion warships descended on Mars like falling stars. They expected to face orbital defenses. They expected to fight through satellites and weapons platforms. They did face those things, and they pushed through with heavy losses. What they did not expect was what waited on the surface. Captain Cole was 32 years old. He had been born on Mars and had never known any other home. He had joined the military at 18 because he wanted to protect his family. He had trained for years for a battle he hoped would never come. Now that battle was here, and he was ready. "All units hold positions," Cole ordered through his helmet radio. He was crouched behind a rock formation near the base of Olympus Mons, the largest volcano in the solar system. Around him, 10,000 soldiers waited in silence. "Let them land. Let them think they have won. Then we show them what humans can do." The Dominion troops landed in waves. Thousands of them poured out of there, confident and cruel. They were larger than humans and stronger than humans. They had better armor and bigger weapons. They had conquered 100 species in ground combat. But they had never fought humans before. The first wave died in seconds. Hidden gun positions opened fire from every direction. Explosions tore through Dominion formations. Soldiers who had never known fear began to scream. And then the humans charged. Cole led the attack himself, sprinting across the red dust with his rifle blazing. Around him, his soldiers moved like ghosts, fast and silent and deadly. They did not fight like the Dominion expected. They did not stand in neat lines and exchange fire. They moved, adapted, surprised. They fought like they had nothing to lose. The battle lasted 18 hours. When it was over, the red sand of Mars was stained with alien blood. 300,000 Dominion soldiers had landed. Less than 10,000 escaped. The rest were dead or captured. Among the captured was a high-ranking Dominion officer named Hose. He was brought before Admiral Vance in chains, his 4 eyes filled with hatred and fear. "You have won nothing," Hose spat. "The Dominion will never stop. We will keep coming until every human is dead." Vance looked at him calmly. "Tell me something I do not know." But Hose did tell her something she did not know. Under interrogation, he revealed the Dominion's true plan. The siege was not meant to starve humanity. It was meant to buy time. Time to prepare the Purifier. The Purifier was a weapon of last resort. It was the size of a small moon, and it had the power to destroy entire planets. The Dominion had used it only twice in their history, both times to eliminate species that refused to submit. Now they were preparing to use it again. On Earth. "They are going to destroy our planet," Vance said quietly. She stood alone in her office, staring at the intelligence reports. "They are going to kill everyone. Men, women, children, everyone." She closed her eyes and took a deep breath. When she opened them again, they were filled with cold fire. "Then we will not give them the chance." She pressed a button on her desk. "Connect me to Project Prometheus. Authorization code, Final Dawn." A voice answered. "Prometheus standing by, Admiral. All systems ready." Vance nodded slowly. "Begin the launch sequence. It is time to show the Dominion what humanity is truly capable of." In the darkness beyond the solar system, in hidden shipyards that had never appeared on any map, something massive began to move. The siege was about to end. But not the way the Dominion expected. The Purifier moved slowly through the void like a metal moon with a single purpose: death. It was the largest weapon the galaxy had ever seen. Its surface was covered with machines that could crack a planet open like an egg. Inside, thousands of Dominion soldiers guarded its systems with religious devotion. They believed they were doing holy work. They believed they were cleansing the universe of a dangerous infection. They called it justice. Humanity called it genocide. Grand Marshal and watched the Purifier's progress from his command ship. In 3 weeks, it would reach Earth. In 3 weeks, 8 billion humans would die. The thought brought him peace. "Soon this will all be over," he said to his officers. "The humans will be forgotten. Their worlds will be empty, and the galaxy will remember what happens to those who defy the Dominion." His officers nodded in agreement. They had no doubt about the outcome. The humans were trapped and outnumbered. The Purifier could not be stopped. Victory was certain. Then the alarm started screaming. "Grand Marshal," an officer shouted, "we are detecting massive energy signatures. Ships are appearing from nowhere." "How many?" and demanded. The officer's face went pale. 500, sir, and they are not in the solar system. They are everywhere." And felt his blood turn to ice. The Prometheus fleet had been humanity's greatest secret. For 200 years, scientists had worked in hidden laboratories to crack the code of faster-than-light travel. They had succeeded decades ago, but they had told no one. Instead, they had built ships in secret, hiding them in the empty spaces between stars where no one ever looked. Now those ships were revealing themselves. Admiral Vance had given the order herself. 500 human warships jumped simultaneously to predetermined locations across the galaxy. They appeared above the 12 of the Dominion, not firing, not attacking, just waiting. The message was clear: we could end you all right now, every last one of you. On a prime, Ambassador Oz stared at his sensors in disbelief. 50 human ships hung in orbit above his world, their weapons pointed at his cities. They had bypassed every defense. They had appeared without warning. They could turn his planet into fire with a single command. "This is impossible," he whispered. "They cannot have this technology. They are primitives." But the ships were real, and they were everywhere. The Dominion Council erupted into chaos. Species that had been allies for thousands of years began to blame each other. How had the humans developed this technology? Who had helped them? Who had betrayed the Dominion? The alliance began to crack. "We must surrender," some argued. "We must negotiate before they destroy us all." "Never," others shouted. "The purifier will still reach Earth. We can still win." But while the Dominion argued, Captain Cole was already in motion. He had volunteered for the mission knowing he would not return. The plan was simple. A small strike team would board the purifier and destroy it from within. They would carry a quantum singularity bomb, a weapon so powerful it could collapse the massive station into nothing. The explosion would kill everyone on board, including the team that planted it. Cole did not hesitate. He gathered his soldiers, the best fighters humanity had ever produced, and they boarded a stealth shuttle. They crossed the void in silence, slipping past Dominion patrols, moving closer and closer to the planet-killing weapon. "Everyone knows the mission," Cole told his team as they approached. "We go in, we plant the bomb, we end this. No coming back, no second chances, any questions?" There were no questions, only grim determination. The shuttle docked with the purifier through an emergency hatch. Cole and his team moved through dark corridors filled with alien machinery. They had studied the blueprints captured from Hose. They knew exactly where to go. But the Dominion knew they were coming. Alarms wailed, doors sealed. Thousands of Dominion soldiers flooded the corridors, determined to protect their weapon at any cost. Cole's team was outnumbered 100 to 1. They fought anyway. The battle through the purifier was brutal and bloody. Cole lost soldiers with every corridor. Friends he had known for years died beside him, buying time with their lives so others could advance. The floors grew slick with blood from both sides. But the humans kept pushing forward. Cole took a wound to his leg and kept walking. He took another to his shoulder and kept firing. His armor was cracked, his ammunition was running low, and still he moved toward the core. When he finally reached the central chamber, only 3 members of his team were still alive. The core was a massive sphere of pulsing energy, the heart of the purifier's terrible power. Around it, 100 Dominion soldiers formed a final defensive line. "For Earth," Cole said quietly. "For Earth," his soldiers replied. They charged. The fighting was close and desperate. Cole used his rifle until it was empty, then his pistol, then his knife, then his bare hands. One by one, his remaining soldiers fell. One by one, the Dominion guards fell too. When the last guard died, Cole was alone. He was bleeding from a dozen wounds. His vision was going dark at the edges. He could barely stand, but he had reached the core and he still had the bomb. With shaking hands, he pulled the device from his pack and activated it. A countdown began, 60 seconds until detonation. Cole pressed his back against the core and smiled. He thought about Mars and its red mountains. He thought about his family and the home he would never see again. He thought about all the children on Earth who would grow up free because of what he was about to do. "Admiral Vance," he said into his radio. His voice was weak but steady. "The package is planted. 60 seconds. Get your people clear." Vance's voice came back through static. "Captain Cole." "Thank you." "Just make sure it means something," Cole replied. "Make sure they remember why." The countdown reached 0. The quantum singularity bomb activated. Reality itself screamed as a point of infinite gravity bloomed inside the purifier's core. The massive station began to collapse inward, metal and flesh and machine all crushed into nothing. In seconds, the weapon that was supposed to destroy Earth was erased from existence, along with everyone on board. Grand Marshal and watched from his ship as the purifier vanished. He felt something break inside him, not just his plans, his certainty, his belief that the Dominion could not be defeated. "It is gone," he whispered. "They destroyed it, one team, one bomb, they destroyed our greatest weapon." Around him his officers were silent. They had no words, they had no answers. Far away on Geneva Station, Admiral Vance lowered her head. A single tear ran down her cheek. Then she straightened, wiped her face, and turned to her officers. "Captain Cole gave us a chance," she said. "Let us not waste it." She opened a channel to the Prometheus fleet. "All ships, the purifier is destroyed. Begin Phase 2. It is time to end this war." 500 human warships received the order. And the galaxy trembled. The war did not end with fire, it ended with silence. After the purifier's destruction, the Prometheus fleet delivered humanity's final message to the Dominion. 50 ships above each, 500 ships total, enough firepower to turn every alien world into dust. But the humans did not fire, they waited. Admiral Vance's voice echoed across the galaxy, calm and steady. "You have two choices. Surrender unconditionally or watch your worlds burn. We did not start this war, but we will finish it, one way or another." The Dominion Council met for the last time as rulers of the galaxy. 12 species that had stood together for 10,000 years now sat divided by fear and blame. Their fleets were scattered. Their greatest weapon was gone. Human ships hung above their cities like patient executioners. "We must fight to the end," some argued. "We cannot surrender to animals." But Grand Marshal, broken and hollow, shook his head. "Our end has already come. The only question now is whether we die with our people or without them." The vote was held. It was not close. The Dominion of a surrendered unconditionally. 3 days later, Admiral Helena Vance traveled to a prime for the signing of the peace treaty. Her shuttle descended through clouds the color of bronze and landed in the ancient plaza of the Grand Council. This was the heart of the Dominion, a place where conquered species had knelt for 10,000 years. Today, no one was kneeling. Vance walked through halls built to make visitors feel small. The ceilings rose hundreds of feet above her. The statues of ancient warriors seemed to stare down with contempt. Every inch of the building was designed to intimidate. But Vance felt nothing but calm. The 12 ambassadors waited in the council chamber, seated in a circle like they had been for countless centuries. Ambassador Os sat at the head, his 4 eyes watching Vance's approach. He looked older now, smaller. The arrogance that had filled him before was gone, replaced by something tired and afraid. Vance stood in the center of the circle. She did not bow, she did not kneel. She stood straight and tall, a simple human in a room full of ancient powers. "You have won," Os said quietly. "What do you demand? Our worlds, our resources, our lives." Vance looked at him for a long moment. Then she reached into her coat and pulled out a single sheet of paper. She unfolded it and began to read. "Humanity demands the following. First, the Containment Accord is dissolved immediately and permanently. No species will ever be caged again. Second, all Dominion military forces will withdraw from the Sol system and maintain a respectful distance from human space. Third, human ships will be free to travel wherever they wish, trade with whoever they choose, and explore whatever worlds they desire." She paused. The ambassadors waited for more. They expected tribute, they expected slaves, they expected punishment. "That is all," Vance said. Os blinked all four of his eyes. That is all. You could demand anything. You could take our worlds. You could enslave our people. You have the power to destroy everything we have built. And you ask only for equality. Vance folded the paper and put it back in her coat. We are not you. We did not fight this war to become the new masters of the galaxy. We fought it to be free. That is all we ever wanted. She looked around the circle, meeting every alien gaze. You feared us because you did not understand us. You saw our passion and called it madness. You saw our determination and called it danger. But we are not your enemies. We never wanted to be. You made us fight and we fought. Now it is over. Os stood slowly. For a moment, he said nothing. Then he asked the question that had burned in him since the first human ship appeared above his world. We have conquered thousands of species. We have ruled the galaxy for 10,000 years. None of them ever resisted like you did. None of them ever fought like you did. His voice was barely a whisper. What are you? What are humans? Admiral Vance smiled. It was not a cruel smile or a proud smile. It was the smile of someone who had carried a heavy burden for a very long time and could finally put it down. We are the species that looked into the darkness and refused to blink, she said. We are the species that took your cruelty and turned it into strength. We are the children of a small blue world who dreamed of reaching the stars. And we are the people who will never, ever kneel. She extended her hand. Now sign the treaty. Let this war be over. Let us both move forward. Os looked at her hand for a long moment. Then, slowly, he reached out and took it. The treaty was signed that afternoon. The war was officially over. 1 month later, Captain Cole was laid to rest with full military honors. His body had been lost in the Purifier's destruction, but his memory lived on. A statue was built on Mars, at the base of Olympus Mons where he had fought and bled. The inscription read, "He gave everything so that others could have anything." Admiral Vance spoke at the ceremony. Her voice was soft but carried across the red Martian plains. Cole was not the only hero of this war. Thousands gave their lives so that humanity could be free. We must never forget their sacrifice. We must never forget why they fought. They did not die for revenge. They did not die for conquest. They died so that their children could look up at the stars and know that nothing was forbidden to them. She looked up at the sky, where human ships were already departing for distant worlds. Let us honor them by building something worth their sacrifice. Let us explore with courage, trade with fairness, and meet new species with open hands. Let us show the galaxy that humanity was worth fighting for. That night, billions of humans across the solar system looked up at the stars. For the first time in 200 years, those stars were not a prison wall. They were a promise. They were a future. Ships bearing human flags streaked toward the unknown. Some carried scientists eager to study new worlds. Some carried traders looking for opportunities. Some carried families searching for new homes. All of them carried the same message. Humanity was free, and nothing would ever cage them again. In the years that followed, the story of the war spread across the galaxy. Species that had never heard of humans learned about the small blue world that had an empire. They learned about Admiral Vance and her iron will. They learned about Captain Cole and his sacrifice. They learned about the warning that Earth had given and the price the Dominion had paid for ignoring it. And whenever young beings asked their elders about the humans, the answer was always the same. They are the species that was told to stay small. They refused. They are the species that was told to accept their cage. They broke it. They are the species that delivered a final warning and meant every word. Never underestimate them. Never threaten their home. Never forget what they are capable of. Because when humanity draws a line, they do not bluff. Earth had delivered its final warning. The galaxy had learned to listen.